Welcome back to the Red Wings Report. This is Jeremy Laura, the stuttering guitarist. I just want to go over a realistic outlook for the upcoming season. So as it stands, if nothing changes, the Detroit Red Wings will not make the playoffs. And I'm going to go through why I think that is and why I feel like that should be obvious at this point. The past two seasons ago, Detroit was in it till the last day of the season, right? There was a gridlock right to the end, and the Capitals end up making it, and Detroit misses it on the last day of the season. Skip ahead, last year starts off really bad, zero consistency, coaching change, Detroit goes on a tear, Four Nations, Detroit falls off again. The team is not significantly improved off of last year's roster. That doesn't mean this Red Wings team will not be better than it was last season, but now you have to look around you. The Atlantic Division has been represented in the past 6 Stanley Cup playoffs. Those two teams are not worried about the regular season right now. Their focus is get to the postseason and put it together. Florida's going to start off with some injury with Matthew Tkachuk. Tampa Bay, they're trying to pull it together for the playoffs, but again, neither of those teams has any concern about the regular season at this point. Toronto, zero concern about the regular season. So unless something drastic changes, those three teams are probably your top 3 seeds, which leaves Montreal, Ottawa, and Detroit battling for a wild card spot. Step back and honestly assess, is Detroit may be better than they were, but are they better, enough better than Montreal, Ottawa, or the 3 what I consider locks, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Toronto, to get to the postseason? And I just don't think you can say that they are. Now, if some insane injury bug takes a team down, something goes really wrong, for one of the teams ahead of Detroit, and Detroit gets incredible goaltending from Gibson and a breakout rookie like a Danielson. But as it stands right now, if you're looking at the 5 teams that finished ahead of Detroit last season, I don't think you can say that any of those teams has slid to the level and Detroit's improved to the level where Detroit's going to hop over them at this point. The glaring issues for the Red Wings is a hole on the top defensive pairing and a hole on the top line, where you have Larkin and Raymond, and right now the name that's being thrown out there for Larkin's wing is Andrew Copp, and that feels like a failure. That feels like they have let down Larkin and Raymond and not gotten anyone in, because Andrew Copp has not performed like a top 6, let alone top 3 forward since he's arrived in Detroit. That is not the player that you need for that spot. James Van Riemsdyk came in, more of a scoring touch, but his minutes are so far down. Last year his dispatch was incredibly low. So you'd be hoping to see Van Riemsdyk be able to go from 3rd or 4th line minutes to 1st line minutes, stay healthy and perform and contribute whatever you're looking for, 25 goals on the left wing. There are a few weeks left before training camp. And right now there are 2 forwards that are still being battled over, and that's Roslovic and Rossi. Rossi's either going to get extended or traded. It sounds like Vancouver's really trying to make a push to get him. Roslovic, centerman, he broke 20 goals last year. It was the 2nd time in his career he'd done that. Vancouver had been talking to him, but apparently something made them change their minds. So I don't know if Detroit was ever in on Roslovic, and I don't know, even if they get him, if that's the solution to the top 6 that would put this team over the hump. I don't know what's happening with the Erik Karlsson deal. All the teams that were supposedly in on making a deal, Pittsburgh certainly wants to clear people out, but Karlsson has total control over that deal. Even if Detroit puts together a great package, if Karlsson is looking to not just get to the postseason but win a Stanley Cup, he's not coming to Detroit. So something big would have to give there on his part as he's looking at, the final years of his contract and looking toward retirement. So the disappointment of this summer and the rebuild in terms of free agents is really coming to a head right now. Detroit's acquisition of DeBrincat has been huge. DeBrincat steps back up last year and he's contributing massively. Kasper, thank goodness he jumped out, because he can center that second line with Kane and DeBrincat, and that unit together was, I believe, Detroit's best line last season. But again, you have a complete failure to get someone on Larkin's left wing, and the players that you brought in and the players that are with the organization, they're depth players. Someone's going to be a fish out of water on that wing unless someone breaks out. It's not out of the question. We saw Kasper do it last year, and Kasper was the best left wing Larkin's had in probably since Yzerman arrived. Him and Bertuzzi were tight for a while until Bert was traded. But as far as just a forward who was able to do everything you need him to do, Kasper was ideal, but they need him at center. So unless something happens, unless someone steps up and breaks out, or unless there's a deal out there that Yzerman's been working on and they can bring in a top 4 defenseman, a top 6, ideally top 3 forward, this team is just not going to break through in the Atlantic. There's just too much ahead of them. I believe Montreal's starting off better with bringing in Dobson, and the top 3 teams that I named earlier, Tampa Bay, Florida, and Toronto, they feel like untouchables. Tampa Bay is transitioning. The team's getting older, that championship core. But their concern is falling out early in the playoffs, not getting to them. So something significant would have to happen for Tampa Bay to fall off. Toronto will probably look a bit different without Marner, but I don't think that's anywhere near putting them in danger of locking down one of the top 3 playoff spots. And Florida will start the year hurt, but that's a team that knows how to win. They'll pull it together, grab their spot. So Montreal and Ottawa are the competition for Detroit for a wild card spot. And as it stands today, with what we know about the roster that Detroit has, the players that have left, the players that have come in, aside from John Gibson in net, the needle hasn't moved on the team. Todd McLellan can make this team more consistent and better, but I don't think they're going to be better than the 5 teams that are in front of them in the Atlantic as of the end of last season. So my best guess at this point, without something happening, Detroit's streak goes to 10 and we see some sort of major change after this season. But let me know what you think in the comments. Is someone going to break out, or is this just realistic? The piece wasn't available for Yzerman. They weren't able to get it, and going into it, unless I'm seeing something, I don't know how they compete with the 5 teams ahead of them. Thanks for tuning in. We'll have more updates as they come. Hockey season's right around the corner now, and I look forward to it.